folks. Welcome back to Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein, and today we are taking a little trip down memory lane, if you will. I've compiled a few of what I deem as underrated bangers, great fights that you can watch that you probably haven't seen before, or if you did see it, you don't remember it. 3 of them for this episode, but I think this is a series that I'll start doing in the future, or moving forward, I should say, because it's pretty fun, and I think there's a lot of fights that we can shine a light on that are worth the watch. So you might be asking, what do you mean by underrated bangers? Well, I've kind of put them in 3 separate categories, one of which would be fights between fighters that you have no idea who they are, or maybe you heard the name once. Fights that are between fighters who you do know who they are and you didn't know that they fought, or you don't remember them fighting and it actually turned out to be an awesome fight. And the other one would be fights that when they happened, people praised them, they lauded them, but they kind of got overshadowed by a bigger moment on that card, or just like general news at the time or whatever. So those are the kind of fights that we're going to delve into today. The first of which, I'm going to do the fight between 2 guys that you know, that you didn't know that they fought, or you forgot that they fought. And today we're going to be talking about Frankie Edgar versus Charles Oliveira. 2 lightweight champions, 2 guys who are big fan favorites, 2 guys who have incredible heart and determination and will to win, and 2 guys that you might not remember put on a great fight back in the day. We're talking about a featherweight affair when Charles Oliveira was at featherweight and Frankie Edgar just moved down after losing his belt to Benson Henderson. He was kind of on a warpath, and he fought Charles Oliveira, who was young and still had all the tools that he has today, the lankiness, the power, the aggressiveness for sure, and the great jiu-jitsu, but it was a much more unrefined product. And Frankie Edgar had all the tools that we know of him, great movement, great boxing, great wrestling, great top game, and heart and chin and will to win. So it made for a really exciting fight. Now we are going to look at some flicks of the fight. It started off really hot. Oliveira throwing his the stuff that he's used to throwing, the front kicks, the roundhouse kicks. He's a great jiu-jitsu player, as we said, so he's not afraid to go to the ground if guys catch his kicks. And Frankie Edgar did catch a kick about 3 seconds in. He went for a leg tap, but Oliveira has great balance, so he was able to withstand it. Goes for his front kick, and Frankie Edgar moves out of the way. Throughout this first round, it was kind of, a little bit back and forth, but Edgar certainly got the best of him. Oliveira goes for a very long jab to the head or to the body. It's kind of hard to tell. It kind of just misses. And Frankie reads it like a book and lands this huge right hand over the top that hurts Oliveira about not even 20 seconds into the fight. So they were off to a very hot start. After that, Oliveira jumped to guard, and Frankie was happy to just kind of beat him up from top position. Rest of the round, when they get back to their feet, Oliveira grabs up the clinch and throws some knees to the body. Frankie is smart to them and moves back out of the clinch. In the second round, however, this is where some of the beauty of this fight is. There were some adjustments made there, right? So, Frankie was landing that beautiful right hand over the top of Charles's long jab. And then in this round, whenever Oliveira went for the clinch again and tried to throw the knees to the body, instead of moving backwards like how he had been, Frankie grabbed the leg and switched to a high crotch and finished the takedown. Having spent the first round on top, when Oliveira pulled the guard, I think Frankie wasn't as afraid in the second round to be on top. Seeing that he saw what Oliveira had to offer there in that first round when they're both dry. And second round, he kind of just keeps on top and beats him up there. And it was just an awesome fight. There was a lot of great boxing from Frankie Edgar. I think that's what really won him the fight, his boxing and his wrestling game. Naturally, they go hand in hand for Frankie Edgar. And Oliveira, although he had some success, he wasn't as refined as he is today. And, I think it was a great learning experience for him at the time. But more than anything, it's just a really fun fight to go back and watch, especially knowing who these fighters are, knowing how they turned out, and, where their careers went and where they had been at that point. It's a back and forth fight with some great technique. It's probably the most technical fight on this list. So fans who are a little bit more into the technical side of the fight, will appreciate this one for sure. Next one we have is a fight that kind of got overshadowed by a bigger moment or, news at the time. At the time, people were talking about that it was a great fight, but this is the kind of fight that people don't really mention these days because, again, it kind of got overshadowed. So the fight we're talking about is Jeremy Stephens versus Dennis Bermudez at UFC 189. Now, a lot of OG fans, or fans from 10 years ago, I guess, not OG, will tell you that UFC 189 was one of the best cards of all time. That's true, and that still holds true. And it's not only because the main event was awesome and the co-main event was what a lot of people praise as one of the best fights of all time. It was because there was fights on the prelims, on the main card, that were bangers, like this one. Jeremy Stephens and Dennis Bermudez fought at UFC 189, and it got overshadowed, kind of got lost in the shuffle, because this is when Conor McGregor won his first championship in the UFC when he beat Chad Mendes on short notice. But, I think more importantly, it's also the pay-per-view where Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler went to war. And a lot of people laud that as their favorite UFC fight of all time, or the best UFC fight of all time. In my opinion, it's a little overrated, but it is a great fight and one that definitely stole the show that night. That being said, Bermudez and Stephens put on a hell of an appetizer in that main card. Great fight. Stephens lands a lot of good leg kicks in this fight. Both guys drop each other at multiple times. Bermudez lands good right hands. Stephens lands an awesome uppercut. He also landed a great left hook when Bermudez was coming forward. Bermudez kept going forward in this fight. It worked for him very well in the first round. And in the second and third round, Stephens started to, take advantage of that forward movement of Bermudez. In the second round, he does it with that left hook that drops him. And I love this exchange because immediately after getting dropped from that left hook, Bermudez gets up and just Sparta kicks Stephens right in the gut and sends him flying. And it's just an awesome moment. This is the most holy shit fight on this list. Both of these guys had crazy moments here. And it ends in the third round when Bermudez again is pressing forward, trying to get the takedown. He was using a jab to go to the double leg throughout the fight. Stephens picked up the read on that. When he went for the jab, when Stephens had his back against the cage, Stephens flew up with this flying knee and just absolutely smoked Bermudez. Bermudez was writhing on the floor, and Stephens finished it off with some ground and pound, and that was that, man. It was awesome. It was a great fight, very awesome fight, very bloody fight, very gutsy fight, back and forth, knockdowns on both sides. Not as technical as the Frankie Edgar Oliveira fight, and again, this is the one that kind of got overshadowed by McDonald and Lawler too, as well as McGregor and Mendes. But nonetheless, awesome fight to go back and watch. It's on ESPN, it's on UFC TV, so highly recommend you guys check that fight out for sure. And the third fight on this list, and probably the one that really inspired me to do this video, is a fight between two fighters that you probably don't know unless you're an OG hardcore fan from way back, from 2005, 2004 days. You have Matt Grice versus Jason Black. Now, Matt Grice is actually pretty famous for having a fight with Dennis Bermudez, who we were just talking about. But this fight, in my opinion, is the craziest fight of his career, and it's an awesome one. So he fights Jason Black. Matt Grice is a wrestler. He's a hard-nosed wrestler, I believe, from Oklahoma. And Jason Black is also a wrestler, but more of a jiu-jitsu player from Iowa. And he trains with Eddie Bravo, and you can see that in this fight. First round, pretty straightforward for an MMA fight, right? Matt Grice gets the takedown and kind of just, stays on top for the round. They throw some pitter-patter stuff. Jason Black sets up a Kimura, tries to set up an armbar, but Grice is pretty smart to both of them and stays tough and, earns that first round in the bag. Second round is one of the craziest rounds of this era, and certainly the craziest round of this fight. So the second round comes out, and Matt Grice immediately drops Jason Black with a beautiful 3-2, left hook, right hand down the middle. Black is kind of, circling around on the ground, and Grice follows him there and hits him with another few really good punches. He threw 5 or 6 really good punches here, and 3 of them were really hard shots, and Jason Black was in all sorts of trouble. Grice is on top now, and kind of just, raining down hell with elbows and punches and everything, and Jason Black, to his credit, stays really tough here. And this is where the fight gets crazy, is because Jason Black throws up this triangle choke. Matt Grice is smart to it at first, but when he goes to defend the triangle, Jason Black threatens the armbar. then when he threatens the armbar and Matt Grice answers that, he goes back to the triangle, and it's just this beautiful sequence from Jason Black where he has Matt Grice in all sorts of trouble, and he even turns it into a mount. He gets a mounted triangle on the head of Matt Grice, and it's just punching him in the face. And this fight definitely would have been stopped today. 100% would have been stopped today. Once you get in that position with the triangle and the mount, and it's just like you can't go anywhere. You know, it's even worse than the crucifix in my opinion, because there's pressure on your neck and you have a choke that's going on. And it's just a crazy ass round back and forth, and it looked like the fight could have been finished at the end of it, and it looked like it could have been finished at the beginning of it. Third round, Matt Grice kind of just nullifies the game of Jason Black and runs the clock down and wins. And this is a funny fight too, because not only was it a crazy back and forth war, but at the end of it, Bruce Buffer read the scorecards as a draw, and it turns out that one of the judges did his math wrong, and it was supposed to go to Matt Grice. So you have a great moment where Joe Rogan is being explained the scores by one of the the officials at the event. It's fucking hilarious. I love it. And then he gets on the mic. He's like, well, actually, it's supposed to go to Matt Grice. And then they were like, all right, okay. Because it made sense that Grice won. You know, he won the first round. He won the third round. Second round, he almost got the finish. And also, Black almost got the finish. So, you know, it could have been a draw for sure. I wasn't mad at the draw. It would have been 28-28. But to give 2 rounds to Jason Black, I think is a little egregious. Either way, awesome fight. Crazy banger. Crazy underrated banger. And, yeah, just really encapsulates what I'm trying to do with this video and what we're talking about here, which is, you know, fights that don't get the love they're supposed to. So highly recommend you guys go back and watch those fights. They're all on UFC TV or Fight Pass. The first 2 are on ESPN. I'm not sure you can get Matt Grice and Jason Black on ESPN because they delete a lot of really old shit, but I really recommend you guys go back and check that fight out because it's fucking insane. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all, you know. I want to do more videos like this, especially when we have some downtime in between fight cards. I like the historical pieces, obviously, but sometimes it's fun to just kind of go down memory lane and talk about fights that I love. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And happy Easter to anybody that celebrates it. Love y'all. Peace out.